For years, bodybuilders looking to get bigger and stronger have known that weight training is the key. And the heavier the weight, the greater the muscle growth stimulation. In 2003, a new training protocol was introduced that was unlike anything ever seen before in the world of bodybuilding. A training system based for the first time on maximum muscle contraction. A training system so revolutionary that the top journals in the industry said that it could cause physiology books to be rewritten. This system is called Max Contraction Training. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll reveal the tenets of this revolutionary exercise breakthrough and learn of its finer points from its creator, John Little. A lot of bodybuilding myths and dogma will be decimated along the way. But then, as a popular adage states, if you want to make an omelet, you have to break some eggs.
Max contraction evolved out of a deep desire to find a better way to exercise. For years, centuries in fact, people have been lifting weights or progressive resistance in a manner that was based on tradition. What I wanted to do with max contraction was to find precisely what was the root cause of muscle growth and strength. To forget about tradition, to forget about what everybody else is doing, but to find out what science actually had to say about this. And that required not looking necessarily at the history of bodybuilding so much as it did looking into physiology textbooks, finding out what studies were done, what they had to say about hypertrophy or muscle growth, how muscles got stronger. It wasn't long into my research when I happened upon the works of a physiologist by the name of Muller out of Germany. And in the 1950s, Muller did an interesting thing. He spent 10 years studying the cause and effect relationship of muscle growth. And what Muller did was that he found, or studied different protocols. He found that 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 12, training every day, training once a week, training 3 times a week, what would yield the quickest gains in strength and size. He found, after his 10-year study, that a 6-second contraction held in the fully contracted position would build strength and size as fast as it could be created. But his studies were largely ignored by the scientific community, or small members of the scientific community took notice, such as Dr. Arthur Steinhaus out of Illinois. But it never filtered down to the bodybuilding magazines or to the people that could make the best use of it, the best practical use of it, the bodybuilders. His research was fascinating because it took a muscle into a fully contracted position and kept it there for 6 seconds. He later refined that and found that a 1-second contraction, a maximal contraction, would do the same thing. And it struck me as I was doing my research that if that was the case, if that was the facts, if that was what science had to say, why weren't people doing it this way? Muscle really does 2 things. It contracts and it relaxes. And that if overload is employed on a muscle when it is contracted maximally, that was really the 2 requisites of stimulating maximum growth, that the muscle be in a fully contracted position, number 1, and number 2, sufficient overload be imposed. And conventional bodybuilding exercises, which were compound exercises like squats and bench presses and standing barbell curls, really didn't provide the correct physics to maximally or thoroughly stimulate a muscle. For example, in a bench press, when you're pressing out, your elbows lock out, which means that the effective resistance to the muscles has been shut off. You're now doing a supportive exercise rather than a contracting exercise. Moreover, when you're doing an exercise like the bench press, in the thought of you're going to train your chest, what really happens is that about 60% of the training stress is borne on the triceps and the anterior deltoids and the forearms. That leaves about 40% for the chest. 40% is not 100%, therefore it wasn't 100% stimulation. You weren't doing all that you could to thoroughly stimulate your muscles. So isolation exercises, providing you could have resistance in the position of full contraction, which for the pectorals is this position here when the arm is across the midline of the body, were ideal for that. So I devised a protocol. This is back in about 1984. The thought, interestingly enough, came to me in a Greek history class. I still have the notes from that time, to define a series of exercises that would involve the fully contracted position of a muscle, much like Muller's studies, and to increase the overload and find out what kind of gains or greater gains could be had by training this way. And the results were absolutely astounding to me. People were doubling their strength inside of 2 months, and individuals were gaining anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds of muscle mass. And the reason really isn't surprising when you understand how muscles work and how muscle growth is really an adaptive response of the body to the stress of exercise. There's an analogy, it's been used many times in high-intensity training circles, but it happens to be an apt one. If you went out in January to attempt to get a suntan, you could be out for hours with absolutely nothing to show for your efforts. If you go out in the midsummer sun, only a few minutes of exposure to the ultraviolet light, which is of a more intense nature because the sun's directly overhead in midsummer, is sufficient to cause an adaptive response from the body in the form of a tan. Well, weight training similarly is a stress on the body. Ultraviolet light, admittedly, is a stress on the skin, but high-intensity training is a stress on the muscles. And the greater the stress on the muscles, the higher the intensity, the quicker the adaptive response. And like the sun analogy, you can either have low intensity, like January, the sun in January, or high intensity, like the sun in the summer. But more than that, with weight training, you can actually increase the resistance or the intensity at will. You can literally, to use our analogy, bring the sun a little bit closer to the earth so that you cannot tolerate as much exposure to the training stress. But the response is that much more dramatic. And that's what max contraction training is, essentially. It's efficient training. It's to have not high intensity, but maximum intensity. The higher the intensity, the greater the muscle fiber recruitment. The greater muscle fiber recruitment and stimulation, the greater the growth. Although max contraction has been promoted in bodybuilding publications, it's first and foremost a strength building program to make you stronger. And there's a host of physical benefits that attend being stronger, as Tony Robbins pointed out in his introduction to the Max Contraction Training book. Everything from preventing osteoporosis to increasing metabolism to better posture to more endurance to greater strength. All of these and then some. And that was our interest because that makes a more efficient human being, one who's better able to enjoy life when they're stress-free and have an ample supply of strength. The physique, the physical component, the body beautiful, if you will, happens to be a byproduct of this. Just like 2,000 years ago, the strongest men happened to be the best built men. That wasn't what their goal was. They weren't coming out to just simply to look great. That was a benefit that attended the development of strength. In bodybuilding today, a lot of magazines put the emphasis on cosmetics, on appearance, with the result that they don't have a lot of function. I remember one world-class bodybuilder that an associate of mine, Bob Wolf, and I were going for lunch with in Santa Barbara. And we parked the car, and the restaurant was about 1.5 blocks away. And as we were walking, Bob and I were talking, and we didn't realize this fellow had dropped behind us. And we looked back, he was bent over, exhausted, gasping for air from walking from the car to a restaurant. Now, this is a fellow who's not strong, obviously, even though he looked like he could move a mountain. But it speaks to the problem with these drugs that they have on the cardiovascular effect and on overall health and fitness. If someone told me once that the fellow who wins a bodybuilding contest is typically the unhealthiest man on the stage, and I believe that. I remember standing over a bodybuilder who had dropped, passed out, because he was not only taking steroids, he was taking diabetic medication, he was taking insulin, and a host of other drugs, which just sent his electrolyte balance completely haywire. He dropped, he almost died. He had to be taken to a hospital. They had to put him on intravenous. The audience didn't see this because this was backstage. And he was released from the hospital just in time for the evening finals. And he came out and went through his routine. The audience applauded. He didn't even place in the contest. And the point is, this gentleman almost died for what? Nobody today knows his name. He put his life at risk for a moment of what? Maybe you get a picture in a magazine. It's not worth it. Train for health and fitness for your own benefit so that you can be fit, you can be healthy, you can be better able to face the challenges that life throws at you. you'll get a great physique as a byproduct, but it's not the goal or direct purpose of what this training system is about.
Max Contraction Training has attracted people from all walks of life, from homemakers and bodybuilders to peak performance coaches such as Tony Robbins. In addition, Max Contraction Training can be applied to the weekend warriors whose interests are hockey or baseball, to Olympic athletes such as Canadian Olympian Joe Ross looking for that ever-elusive competitive edge.
Well, I went to school for kinesiology at the University of Windsor, and from there I opened up a personal training service about 13 or 14 years ago.
How many clients would you have?
At any given time, I'm working with 40 to 60 people.
And are they sort of all over the spectrum?
All different types of needs, from athletes to those who are concerned with losing weight and get a better physique. There's any endless amount of reasons why they come.
Yeah.
But the one thing that surfaces all the time is you want to increase their strength, and I mean, whether they know it or not, enhance their life and their lifestyle by increasing their strength and their cardiovascular fitness as well.
Now, about your background, because obviously you're bringing background in kinesiology, that's terrific, but you also have a lot of hands-on experience beyond personal training. I mean, what was your athletic background?
Well, I had a very athletic childhood, of course, but into the formal training, I was on the Canadian track and field team in 400-meter hurdles and 110-meter hurdles.
How far did you get with that?
I was Canadian champion.
Well, that's about as far as you get.
Yeah, and on to some world championships and stuff. And as well, I did a different sport, which was called bobsleigh. Bobsled, take your pick.
Which is an Olympic sport.
And I was on the 1988 team in Calgary for that.
Oh, geez, that's great.
Yeah.
So no stranger to hard work.
No.
I'm glad to hear that, because we're going to experience some hard work today.
I'm looking for some.
And one of the first things I think we'll do when we get to the gym is demonstrate the difference between the strength you're restricted to with the full range of motion versus the actual strength of contraction that you have the potential already in your muscles. And we want to have you operating near 100% rather than 30%.
Right.
So if you're ready, we'll hit it.
Challenge me.
All right, my man. Now, Joe, if you're doing leg extensions, which you do from time to time, how much weight do you normally use?
I don't go up anywhere past 180 pounds.
You don't. So if I put 180 on the stack now, mind you, it depends on the camera, so I put 180 on, and if you can just do a rep and see how it feels. I'll stand out your way. Good, do another one. Good stuff. Okay, now let me try an experiment. And the point of this being that you are much stronger and your muscles are capable of contracting against far more weight and therefore recruiting more muscle fibers than a full range of motion will allow you. So I'd like you to try and do a repetition with the weight that's on there now. Okay? Whoa. It's immovable, isn't it?
Impossible.
Yeah. And yet, and what's interesting is, I'd like you to try that again. I'm going to help you. 1, 2, 3. Hold. Perfect. And just let it down slowly. I'll help you let it down.
Wow.
Do you notice the difference?
It's like having a piano on your legs.
But nevertheless, if you restrict yourself to the amount of weight you can move through a full range of motion, you would have been 180, maybe 200 pounds. Right. And yet your quads had the potential to contract against 300. So the obvious question is, if your quads have the capacity to contract against 300 pounds, and you only ever expose them to 180 pounds of force, what's going to happen?
You're missing lots of potential.
Absolutely. Well, what we're going to do now is put Joe through a full max contraction workout based on that same principle. It'll be somewhat experimental because I don't know what his top weights are. I haven't worked with Joe before. So what we're going to do is try and find basically what his 1 rep max is with conventional exercise and have him sustain that contraction for up to 30 seconds. As he gets stronger, we're going to reduce the contraction time down to 6 seconds and ultimately to 1 second. But to begin, we're going to get the neuromuscular efficiency up and running about 30 to 45 seconds. So we'll try it now. Start it fresh. That would be more weight than you would normally use. That was just for an experiment. But let's try maybe 240 or 225. And I don't know if you can do a full range. If you can on your own, that's great. If not, I'll help you do it. It's going to be heavy, but okay. Good. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Don't forget to breathe. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 10 to go. 21, 22, 23, nice job, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, down slow. Nice job. How did that feel? Good?
Yeah.
Big difference in the quads? Now, you wouldn't need to do 20 sets of that, would you?
No. Actually, what I like about that, too, is it really forces you to concentrate on what you're doing.
Right. And there's no learning curve for form, which there is in some things, like super slow protocol, 10 seconds up, slow turnaround, 10 seconds down. Other exercises, you've got to learn the technique. And also, moving a muscle through a full range of motion exposes the joints to a lot of shear forces. You don't have that with this. It's just you either have the strength in your quads to contract against it or you don't. And in this case, you obviously did. So nice job. We'll move on to the next exercise.
All right.
You may want to plug in, I'm going to guess you're about 80 pounds out of this. So that's too light what's on there now. Something that you're going to have real difficulty holding for 30 seconds, but that you can get into the fully contracted position.
80 pounds.
80 pounds. Okay. And draw down as far as you can bring it down. And hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're feeling it now. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It's coming up. Pull it down. 18. That's it. 19, 20. Full contraction. 21. 10 seconds. 22, 23. Drop back, Joe. 24, 25, 26. Draw it. 27, 28, 29. Up slow. Up slow. Better up slow. Nice job. How are the hamstrings feel?
Fried.
Well, I'm going to give
French fries.
You did about 25 before it started to move, so I'm putting you in for 25 seconds, which is good. Next time out, you'll probably exceed 30. But you'll also find that your strength is going to skyrocket on this exercise.
That's what we're looking for.
That's right. Well, good job. Next, we'll move on to calves. Joe, the next exercise is going to be standing calf raise. You can do it on a machine or with a couple of dumbbells standing. And you folks at home, a lot of people don't have a standing calf raise machine, so that's why we're going to use these. So I'll hand that off to you. You got that okay? Yeah. All righty. And balance can be a little bit tricky on this, but Joe shouldn't have much trouble. Right
Okay.
up, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, up in the big toe, 16, 17,
There's that burn again.
Yeah, 19, 20, 10 to go. Up, 21, 22, get those heels up, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 28,
Yeah, nice.
29, 30, nice job. Okay, down slow. Okay, Joe, next exercise is back. This particular facility has a lat pull-down machine, which isn't a bad exercise, but we can make it a better exercise. The problem with lat pull-downs, of course, if you want to sit down, actually, we can demonstrate this, is take an underhand grip like you're doing a chin-up, and sit down.
Wider.
Medium but close. But yeah, that's good. Now, when you pull it down, the muscle that's working primarily is the biceps. And the problem with the bicep being directly involved is that it's much smaller and weaker than the lats that we want to work. Joe's lats are among the most powerful muscles in his body, so we definitely want to tax those more so than the biceps. So we'll let that up. And if you could take that bar off from that whip, put those on. And the purpose of the mag straps, among other exercises, but particularly for training the lats, is that it turns what would normally be a compound exercise into an isolation exercise. That's it. Hands around the straps, but don't clench it too tight or you're still going to use your biceps. So sit down. That's it. Now what Joe's going to do, he's going to pull this down, relax the hands, just open the hands almost, draw your elbows down to a point right about there. The problem with going down too deep, like Nautilus and other companies recommend, is the further down you go, the more the rear deltoid becomes involved and the triceps. We want to keep the isolation solely on the latissimus. So Joe, let that up. We're going to get your weight. And knowing your strength, this is going to be rather prodigious. So I'm going to plug in 300 pounds.
A full stack.
A full stack for you, my friend. But I'm going to help you lift it down. Okay, so it's going to be very difficult. Move your hands a bit, so I can grab down here. There we go. On 3, 1, 2, 3, drop. Okay, got it. Lock in. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See his lats contracting. 8, 9, 10. Breathe. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, flex, 24, draw them down, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and up. Nice job. Whew. How did the last feel? Do you feel that directly on the lats? Yeah.
Right down the side. That'll feel to the shoulders
Or the biceps.
Yeah, nothing up here.
Joe, I'd like you to do an exercise. I'm going to try and show it to you. Hopefully this works. Which is a shrug. You've done shrugs before with dumbbells. But what you want to do is draw your shoulders up as high as possible and hold it in that position. We're going to use the max straps for this. So when you do that exercise, that is the motion for it. And I want you to hold that for 30 seconds. So pull it up tight, Joe, and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now you're doing curls. 11, 12. Arms don't have to be bent, just the triceps. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, up to your ears. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Good job. Nice job. Nice job. Okay, as Joe is familiar with this particular exercise, he believes that the weight he'll use with each arm will be about 90 pounds. We're still going to try and hold it for 30 seconds. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Primary function of the pec, of course, being to draw the arms across the midline of the body and down, which is exactly what he's doing now. Keep flexing, Joe. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Make a close fist. Don't let those things roll out of your hands. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Squeeze it. 29 and down. Nice job. Nice job. Feel like the pecs? Tense contraction?
Is that what you're supposed to do?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's all right.
All right. All right, Joe, we just finished training chest. Feeling a little tired, no doubt. You're about halfway through the workout. But I want to do the next 2 exercises fairly close together. We'll take it by how your breathing is. If you're breathing too laboredly, just back off.
Give me an hour break.
I'll give you an hour break. Well, I might give you 2 minutes break. And then we're going to do bent over laterals for the rear deltoid.
Okay.
But we'll try that. I've selected 2 dumbbells that are about 20 pounds each, but I think they'll be adequate because you're not going to have much leverage on this exercise.
All right.
So there's 1 and number 2. Now, try and keep the elbows straight. Perfect. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how he's keeping that at shoulder width. You don't want to go higher than shoulder width when you do this. Otherwise, your trap muscles are going to be involved too much.
And you're counting still?
I'm still counting. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Keep your little finger up a little higher. 24, yep, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, down slow. Nice job. How did that feel in the shoulders? Like the weight of the world. Yeah, there you go. Another atlas. Okay, if you're feeling okay, while you're in that position, turn around this way. All right, and I'd like you to bend over, and you know how to do a bend over lateral. Right up to the side and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good job. 7, 8, 9. Look at the rear delt here. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You're doing great. 17, 18, 19. Draw it up higher. 20, 21. Work that rear delt. 22. Separate from the lateral. 24, 25. Up. 26. That's okay. Let her down. That's it. Nice job. Well, Joe's already waiting for me here at the preacher bench. We're almost at the end of the workout. We're going to be doing biceps now. I'm going to help you up with this weight, which we believe should be adequate for Joe. Let's see how this works for you. You ready? You got it? And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Squeeze it. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nice. 11. Keep it up there. 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Come on, Joe, 10 to go. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Squeeze it. Flex it. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Down slow. Nice job. How are the arms go? Kick it back right behind the midline of the body. Stand up straight, Joe. That's it. Draw it right back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20. Full contraction. 21. 10 seconds. 22, 23. Draw it back, Joe. 24, 25, 26. Draw it. 27, 28, 29, 30. Good. All right, Joe. Here we are, the final exercise of the day. We're going to use the max straps again, which you used, of course, for pull downs. But we're going to be training your abs this time in a crunch motion. Now, you're a personal trainer, so I know you're very familiar with that exercise.
Right.
I don't know if you're familiar with using a strap to do it, but it's almost. Remember years ago they used to have straps for knee ups?
Right.
It's almost a similar motion.
Same action.
Same action.
Knee to midsection.
Yeah, works the abdominals. Right. So we'll try that. And anchor yourself in there, and once you get to a position of a crunch, not a full, bend over position, like they are for sit-ups.
Just for the fully contracted.
That's it. Yeah. And crunch. Hold. 1, 2. Oh yeah. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Flex them hard. 18, 19, 20. 21, 22, 23, 24,
5 seconds.
26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Good job. Nice job.
Thanks.
So you finished your first max contraction workout. I think you've felt something a little different than before.
It feels like I need some rest. That's what it feels like.
Well, you should probably take at least 4 or 5 days off rest for this type of training. But as you get stronger, and I have no doubt that we'll effectively double your strength over the next 2 months, you're going to need to back off to training maybe once every 7 to 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's going to free up some time for me.
It will, well, which is good because you have a life outside of the gym as well, I know. So
they say.
Anyway, congratulations on
Thanks,
finishing your first. You're welcome, sir.
All right.
Well, Joe, it's been about an hour actually since your workout now, and I wanted to get your post-workout reaction as to your experience with the protocol.
Now, it was very dynamic. I was surprised in such a short amount of time how I got to different points of exhaustion. I mean, even now my legs are still shaking a little bit in the upper body.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the one thing that I can say is it was a short amount of time and you got a lot of work done.
Do you feel more fiber recruitment? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
In some systems you get a pump, right? And that's supposed
Yeah,
to,
like I said, I can basically in my legs right now feel everything right up through here as opposed to that bloated, like
Right.
my legs are stuck together type of thing, and then I'm going to be sore probably a little bit, which is not such a bad thing.
Well, what we want to do, and what you should do, if you're stimulating muscle growth or strength, is to penetrate through to the deeper fibers that you can get. And a pump is not always indicative of growth. I mean, people in gyms all across North America get a pump every time they work out, but they don't get bigger and they don't get stronger.
And it disappears after the shower.
Yeah, or even before the shower in some cases. But I just wanted to run through some of your experiences with it because as an Olympic athlete, as somebody who's no stranger to training, what are some of the physiologic responses you were aware of when you were training?
Well, to get the type of feeling that I'm feeling right now, I'd say I'd be in the gym for about 2.5 hours a lot of the times, or
Wow.
I've done my sprinting and then weights after to achieve that same type of feeling. And what I'm curious about too is, this seems good for me. A lot of my clients who have busy careers and have time spent away from home, they want to get back as soon as possible, and everyone's always wanted to get a bit of a shorter workout in but get great results, and this seems to be down that pathway. I'm very impressed with it.
Well, it's certainly more efficient. I mean, and it has to be. I mean, intensity and duration exist in an inverse ratio to each other, and studies have shown that the more intensely you do an activity, the greater it is for strength and size benefits, whereas duration doesn't really affect muscle size or strength so much. It helps with cardio and things like that. But you were noticing too, and I'd hoped we didn't have the opportunity to, but I wanted to get a heart monitor on Joe at one point because
I'm convinced at this point that there is a cardiovascular benefit to be had from this type of training. I wouldn't have thought that back when I first orchestrated it and engineered it. I thought it was initially for strength, and if you wanted cardio, well, you've got cross-country skiing or you've got running, and it's basically a strength training program. But most of the feedback I'm getting now, in addition to the research that I'm doing and experimenting with, is that this does provide a cardiovascular benefit. It's not on the order of steady-state cross-country skiing or something like that, but there is a cardiovascular benefit, and I wondered what you experienced. Would you agree with that, or am I off base with it?
Well, I essentially, after so many years of doing personal training and training the way I've trained, I know when my heart rate's generally around 140 or 150 or 160, and I was generally, I could say genuinely feeling like it was about 160 plus, especially when we were doing the bigger muscle groups.
Right.
And I'm sure if we had a heart rate monitor on, for sure we would have seen at least that. And I'm so interested in that I'm going to go home and start trying this with the system.
The question often comes up, what about diet? How do I eat to maximize my muscular gains, or gains in strength and size? And the answer is so simple that it's almost commonsensical, which is simply eat a balanced diet, a well-balanced diet. You don't need supplements. You do not need special bodybuilding foods. There is no such thing. There's macronutrients. You have the fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. And all reputable nutritional scientists will tell you need 60% carbohydrates, but 25% protein, 15% fats, period. That's all you need. And the reason is that you don't need tremendous amounts of protein, because protein requirements are contingent upon an individual's body weight. Activity levels have absolutely nothing to do with your protein requirements. Whether you're a 200-pound linebacker or a 200-pound secretary, your protein requirements are based on the fact that you weigh 200 pounds. It has absolutely nothing to do with your activity. What activity levels determine your need for is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the fuel of high-intensity muscular contraction. In fact, with max contraction, you're fueled largely on ATP stores, which stay in the muscle for up to 10 seconds of contraction. As a typical max contraction set lasts between 1 and 6 seconds, there's absolutely nothing supplemental you require to be able to engage in that. But after a workout, you've burned primarily carbohydrates, so if you're looking to replenish some of the nutrients that were used up, a glass of orange juice will suffice. You don't need a big protein supplement. And again, as protein is contingent upon body weight, you just need to consume on a daily basis the amount of protein required to sustain a particular body weight, period. Nutrition has been overemphasized for commercial reasons. The supplement industry, for example, is an $18 billion a year industry. And at that price, you can bet that there's going to be an awful lot of deceit, corruption, and falsehoods propagated in the name of building a better body. It doesn't. People have built massive muscles for thousands of years without recourse to special supplements. And the best way to prove this to yourself, if you happen to be in a secondhand bookstore someday, look through the old magazine section and try and find some old muscle magazines dating back from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and take a look at what the supplement du jour happened to be. In some cases it was bee pollen, then it was brewer's yeast, then it was desiccated liver tablets. At one point there was a supplement called Orchic, which is pulverized bull testicles, which sounds lovely, but it's something the bodybuilders felt they needed to take. Then it was milk and egg protein powder. Then it was amino acids. And then a whole slew of meal replacements came out, from Metrics on down the line. None of these supplements will build an ounce of muscle, without training, of course. They're inert by themselves. The only thing that nutrition does, it's a secondary factor in the growth process, because studies have been shown that muscle can be grown on a starvation diet. That being true, how important or must-have are these supplements? And on a similar note, try and find Orchic today. You can't find it. So how must-have are these supplements to building muscle? They're not. It's a business enterprise. When I went out to California to write for a popular bodybuilding magazine, I was under the impression that the magazine that I was working for was actively involved in science. They wanted to know how muscle was stimulated to grow, what nutritional factors played a role, and how they could be augmented. And I was really disillusioned when I went out there and found out that it was all about marketing and supplements. They didn't care about science. They didn't care really about the reader gaining additional muscular strength and size. They cared about the reader buying their products. And it struck me at that point that it was in the vested interest of the publishers of these magazines to have you fail at your task of building bigger muscles and a more muscular body. Because if you succeeded, you don't need the magazine. You don't need the products they sell. You've already achieved your goal. But if you fail, well, then you're going to start doubting things. You're going to start saying, oh, maybe it's my nutrition. Maybe I should try this supplement that they're selling. Or maybe I need new equipment, and they happen to be selling this type of exercise bench. Maybe I need to change my training routine. And so bodybuilders begin to panic, and they head down a slew of different directions, all of which takes them further and further away from the truth and further away from their goals. Muscle growth is very simple. Muscle does three things. If you overload it, it gets bigger and stronger. If you lift the same amount of weight, it stays the same. If you lift a less amount of weight or no weight, it gets smaller. That's what it does. It's not like the pancreas or the kidneys. It's not a complicated tissue. So if you overload it on a progressive basis, you get bigger and stronger. But as you get bigger and stronger, your energy output increases. Obviously, it takes more energy to move 400 pounds than it does to contract against 30 pounds. And as a result, the greater the energy output, the longer it takes to put it back into the body. So you have to take time off between workouts to allow the body to replenish its energy reserves and to recover from the workout, the exhaustive effects of the workout, and to grow bigger and stronger. On the subject of a well-balanced diet, people have difficulty sometimes envisioning what that is. But it's really very simple. If you sat down for dinner and you had a 6-ounce portion of steak or chicken, you had a baked potato, and you had a green salad, you've got it covered. You've got it covered. You have your greens, which have vitamins and minerals. You have the baked potato, which provides your carbohydrates, one of the macronutrients. And then you have your steak, in this instance, which has protein and has fats. It's as simple as that. Add a glass of milk, and you've got a pretty well-balanced diet. Of course, there's other factors. There's fruits and vegetables. There's meats and dairy products and grains. But as long as you're eating 2 to 3 servings a day from these food groups, you've got a well-balanced diet, and there's no need for supplementation. Supplemental, of course, means in addition to. And if you're getting a well-balanced diet, by definition, you're getting all the vitamins, nutrients, and minerals you require for your body to be fit and healthy. There's a belief, which is common, that you can only eat, natural foods, so-called natural foods. You only get your carbohydrates through a baked potato or a squash or corn or rice or things like that. And that's true for the most part. I mean, that's the way you should get your carbohydrates. But the world's not going to stop revolving if you eat a Snickers bar. To your bloodstream, for it to be used by the blood, it has to be broken down into its molecular components anyway. And to your bloodstream, a carbohydrate is a carbohydrate is a carbohydrate, irrespective of its source. I know that Mike Mentzer, for example, when he was training for a contest and looking to get ripped up, would be eating ice cream, muffins, carrot cake, right up to the day of the contest. He knew that as long as his calories were below a maintenance level, he would be losing body fat. And he also knew that he needed the carbohydrate content in order to fuel his high-intensity workouts to maintain his existing muscle mass. So if you feel a hankering on occasion for a candy bar or a slice of cake, don't worry about it. Just make sure that in your calorie ledger that it's not putting you over your maintenance need of calories, because that's how you're going to gain fat. But to your body, it doesn't really matter. Ideally, in long term, it's not a good thing to eat exclusively sugars and refined sugars and things like that, because there's not much nutrition in those. In a candy bar, you're not getting vitamins and minerals that you need for a well-balanced diet, which would attend eating a baked potato, for example. So it's best to make the natural foods your staple. But if you deviate from time to time, don't worry about it. Don't beat yourself up over it. The world's not going to stop revolving. Your head's not going to explode. And your body's not going to suffer for it. So, as Mike Mentzer used to say, be a bodybuilder, not a health food fanatic. They're two different things.
I'm Erwin Heshka. I'm 39 years old. I originally met John Little 3 years ago when he moved back to Muskoka. Basically, back then I was working out with another fella 4 or 5 times a week in my garage with some free weights that we had. Wasn't really seeing much results. We were basically stuck in a rut. Every day we had to go work out, it was we didn't really look forward to it. It was something we had to do along those type of lines. But saw the max contraction John had done, and were really intrigued by it, and started in with the training with John shortly thereafter. And the results we saw right away were just tremendous as far as our workout, the amount of times we were spent working out, and the results we were seeing as far as the weights. My shrug went from we started around 400 pounds to over 1,000 pounds in a short period of time, and it was just incredible to see that type of weight jump. When I was going with the really heavy weight, it was amazing. You grab onto it, and when you start lifting, you feel like, geez, I don't think I can move this. But as you continue to lift and really start to pull, it feels like the different fibers are kicking in, and basically it's all of a sudden it just comes up. The weight just seems to just lift off the pins, and it was really kind of an interesting feeling because there was a point where you kind of like are thinking, I can't lift this. But you just keep pulling, and all of a sudden it just seems like those extra fibers will then kick in, and the weight comes off the pins.
Come on, keep it right down. Right down. Come on. 20. Come on, right down. Right down, come on. Right to your shoulder. Okay, down slow. Good job.
Before using max contraction, I
How's that feel?
worked out on free weights mostly for quite a few years. Then I moved into a Bowflex system, which seemed to be what I was looking for. Far as it was 3 to 4 times a week, the workout was not as long, but my gains started to stabilize really quick on that. Once I got involved with max contraction and John Little, one workout a week is all I was doing, which left a lot more time to do to other things with family, and the gains were just every workout I was progressing further and making gains, and which builds the incentive to keep coming back. Your workout time was substantially lower than doing it in my own home with my own training system, like with my Bowflex. Each and every workout, making the advancements I was making, going from 176 to 202 today, just keeps you coming, keeps you going back.
Come on.
I've been working out old school, I guess you could call it, for a few years now. And I was, unlike Clayton, I was really, really skeptical when I came across this max contraction. I've always believed in free weights, and then when I heard about max contraction through Clayton, I wasn't too sure of it, so he said, okay, come on over. John invited me over. First workout, went through a full body workout, and halfway through I couldn't even make it the whole way because it was just unbelievable. And ever since then, I've been stuck to it. I crave the workouts now. I really want to get to it, and every Friday or every week, once a week, about 10 minutes. We're in, we're out. It's nice.
A lot of people, friends, family, my wife have noticed a lot of growth in both legs, my upper body. One workout a week, basically. I've dropped down from 3 and 4 times a week to once a week, and it's just been overwhelming.
When I first started max contraction, I was about 192. I'm about 204 now. My family and friends and say that, there's some gains that have been made. They've been asking me about it. I'm bragging about max contraction. I've noticed it in my stamina with hockey, and I feel better. My breathing's better.
Even if max contraction were the same as any other training system in terms of the results it delivered, it's still infinitely superior in terms of the savings in time it affords you to get those results. If any other training method, pre-exhaustion, 6 days a week, circuit training, and max contraction all yielded you, say, 20 pounds of muscle, and the one could give it to you in 10 minutes and the other took 50 hours, obviously the one that can do it in 10 minutes is a more efficient way to train. So even if the results were equal, which they're not, it's a much more efficient, more thorough, more scientific and precise way to train.
There's a lot of misconceptions out there about women not wanting to use heavy weights or train too hard because they'll get big, and they don't want to be big, they just want to be fit. This isn't true, because muscle, in order to give you shape, needs to be toned, and that means that you need to train with heavy weights, as heavy as you can lift. You don't need to compare yourself to men, because obviously they're physically stronger than most women. So just training as heavy as you possibly can. I personally have 4 kids and a pretty busy life, which limits my time that I want to spend in a gym. With the max contraction training system, I can be in and out in 10 to 15 minutes, possibly twice a week, and still get good results.
Well, max contraction offers a host of benefits to trainees, and particularly people that have been soured on the idea of training. A lot of people go into bodybuilding or fitness with the best of intentions. They've allowed themselves to get out of shape. New Year's rolled around. They've made a resolution they're going to get fit. This is the year they're going to get fit. And they enroll in a nearby health club. They believe and are told they should come in and make a real commitment, lifestyle change, 3-4 days a week. And initially, the first week or two, that's okay. They're making progress. They're getting stronger. Their body is adapting. But the reason for that is that the weights are very low when you start out. So you're literally too weak to overtrain. So what they do is they begin to train. They begin to get stronger. Their energy output increases, but they don't compensate with the days off to balance that. So they have full recovery, with the result that very soon, usually within 5 to 6 weeks, they're overtrained. They get up in the morning. They know it's a Monday, the first day of the week. They should be going to the gym, and they really don't feel like it. That's the last place in the world they want to go to. Now, that's their body telling them, don't go. We need more time off. But they take that as a personal failure. Oh, geez, here I go again. I can't stay with it. I'm starting to get that old feeling back. And eventually it grinds to a halt. They stop going. They're not as active. The fat starts to build up again because they're not expending the calories. And they're upset with themselves. They're frustrated. They feel, I can't do it. Well, they can do it, and you can do it. You just have to balance it. Train intelligently. Go in there and don't make it a complete lifestyle change. Make it an adjunct to your life. Initially, you'd start out 3 days a week. Your hold times on a max contraction might be 60 seconds, still anaerobic, but at the high end of it. As you get stronger, the hold times are going to be diminished down to about 1 to 6 seconds ultimately, and the training days per week are going to be cut back from 3 days a week, say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, to twice a week, say Monday, Friday, and ultimately to once a week, and then once every 10 days. That's all you need. Why would you want to spend 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week in a gym when you get the same results or better results training once a week for 10 minutes? Max contraction doesn't end with the workout you've seen on this film. We're still doing scientific testing. We're still innovating. We're still researching, and we have to. What we're interested now, and especially individuals such as myself, I have a very personal, selfish interest in learning about becoming more fit, totally fit. When max contraction was first created, it was designed solely for strength and size and building a more shapely physique. That was my interest at the time. Now I'm getting more interested in total fitness. As one gets older, of course, being healthy is of paramount importance. Having a 20-inch arm is not that important. So what we're doing now with some of our max contraction research is to find out what type of a training effect we can get for total fitness. How do we manipulate the variables, the facts that we know to be true regarding exercise, to give people total fitness in a more efficient manner. And we know that to get a cardiovascular effect, for example, you have to elevate your pulse rate to a certain target zone, which is typically 220 minus your age, and you have to maintain it within 70 to 85% of that figure to get a cardiovascular effect, and you have to sustain it there for about 12 to 15 minutes. So we're experimenting with longer hold times and upwards to a minute and a half per exercise with max contraction, and we're finding that people are getting a cardiovascular effect, a total fitness effect. And as progressive resistance is employed, they're getting a strength benefit. And as the joints are getting stronger, and the muscles around the joints getting stronger, they're getting a flexibility effect, which are the three touchstones of total fitness: strength, flexibility, and cardiovascular efficiency. We're moving in that direction. But moreover, bodybuilders are saying, I've reached a limit, I want to get stronger. And the mistake they typically make is they start to add more exercises, thinking, okay, I'll do more work to get more muscle. It doesn't work that way. Remember, intensity and duration exist in inverse proportion to each other. That's why the sprinter, who runs a short distance with more intensity, has much bigger, more muscular legs than a marathoner, who just does a lot of work. The duration or the work component, the volume of it, has absolutely no effect on strength and size. So we're working now on what is the next evolution. Where do you go after max contraction to get a more intense muscular contraction? I mean, how can you get more than maximum? Well, we're finding ways. And we're finding a lot of it has to do with subverting inhibitory mechanisms within the human mind and the human body. And as those developments become finalized and move from simply hypothesis to theory, we will let you know about that through our website and our other publications. But we're still working. Max straps is a perfect example of an innovation. We needed a direct form of exercise for various muscle groups. We found that home gyms, which is where most people train, they're limited by the equipment they have. And most of them feature compound exercises, which are going to limit the amount of muscle stimulation that you have. That's why we created MaxStrap.
I met John about 2 years ago, and we started talking about weightlifting. And with that, John came up with a max contraction system. And we realized at that point we'd have to come up with some equipment that would take away from the weak links. And with the weak links, we wanted to get rid of our wrists. Our hands are the equation for a pull down, so we came up with a max contraction straps. And these straps will actually they go over your elbows, and you pull directly down, so it eliminates the hands grabbing onto a bar and pulling down. So with that in mind, we created a design, and we wanted to test these straps. So what we did was take it into a laboratory, and we tested the straps on a Tinnitus machine, which actually measures tension and compression. With this exercise, we needed to test the tension, the force. So what we did was hook the straps in, just like they would hook around your elbows, and then put them into the top. The machine, what it does is actually has two jaws. One jaw to pull down on the bottom of the max straps, and then one to pull on the D-ring of the max strap, just like you would simulate a machine, any exercise machine. Anyways, what we did, we started the test. It went up 1,000 pounds, 1,500 pounds, 2,000 pounds of force. So we thought the weakest link would be the stitching that goes around the D-ring. And what we found was that the D-ring was the weakest link. It broke around 2,100 pounds, just over 2,000 pounds. After we did the testing and the D-ring broke, we examined the straps further, and with that, the straps actually didn't show any signs of fatigue, so we know that the straps are more capable of going above 2,000 pounds.
I think max contraction affords an additional benefit. Beyond simply people who want to look better, want to lose body fat, want to increase their energy, and want to get bigger and stronger. It's tremendous, we've learned in recent years, for rehabilitation. If someone has injured a limb and motion is compromised, the beauty of max contraction is you can train the muscle precisely in the range that you do have. And as the muscle gets stronger, the range of motion increases. It's better than forcing flexibility or range of motion into a muscle. I remember a friend of mine played pro football, and he damaged his knee. The anterior cruciate ligament almost ended his career. And when he got out of a cast, his knee was permanently bent at about 45 degrees. And the doctor said, ultimately we've got to get you more range of motion. But their solution to that was to put him on a table, face down, and actually reef on his leg to try and force it into that position. It was like something out of a medieval torture chamber. What you need to do is strengthen the muscle, strengthen the joint. The flexibility will come in time, but the beauty of it is it does not put shear forces on a joint. It's simply what you're capable of doing at that moment. And you will get stronger and your range will increase. It's a better way of rehabilitation.
Max Contraction Training offers results far beyond simply developing a muscular physique. As Tony Robbins said, Max Contraction Training provides you with a truly revolutionary approach to strength training that, when properly applied, will result in meaningful and sustainable physical results and will help you build a confidence in your own abilities that will permeate into all areas of your life.